Hello and welcome back. Before we get to part 2, Real Talk, please allow us to fulfill our capitalistic duty and plug our Patreon, the Contrarian Supplements.
That's right. For a small fee, you too can help the Contrarians rage on.
We have tiers ranging from just $1 to $10. It all depends on how much content you can handle.
Starting at $1, it's a Travolti's tier, which gets you access to new bonus episodes focusing on a new movie every month, as well as access to the patron chat. Join other patrons in making fun of our opinions.
Moving up to $3 is the Winoni's tier, which unlocks access to our pre-recording notes, our video reviews, and our spin-off show, Contrarians After Hours.
That's a more laid-back space where we talk about other things we've been watching, reading, playing, thinking about. Sometimes it's related to the movies being covered in the main feed, but it usually isn't.
If you want to be part of those patrons who help us shape the show by telling us which movies to tackle, that's when you sign up for the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10, the Gads.
Finally, all supplement subscribers, regardless of the tier, get access to our archive of special patron projects. Head over to patreon.com/contrarianprime now to join.
Be sure to listen through the end of the episode to find out what's coming up to the Contrarian Supplements this month. Now, it's time for some Real Talk.
So we're just gonna, just jump right to something that gave us grave concern. Since your time of incarceration, you've had 157 violations. The
158. 158.
Okay. Yep. 158. The most recent being, you were found in possession of a inmate manufactured weapon.
1 second. Do you understand that these statistics do not reflect positively on these proceedings?
Look, Sue, I gotta do what I gotta do. It's my rules, or the Grim Reaper comes a rolling through in a big black Cadillac. Hey, bitch, hop in! You dig?
Yes, I believe I do.
Julio? Sherry Moon Zombie, leading actress. How we feeling?
We're going there from the beginning. We're starting off with a bang. I think this movie makes it clear that her husband adores her, right?
Yes.
If nothing else, 3 from Hell is a love letter to both, I think, to Sherry Moon Zombie and to the character of Baby. It might be a misguided love letter to some of us. But would you say this is... Because the other argument, and maybe they can both be true, is that Lords of Salem is a love letter to Sherry Moon Zombie, right? Because it gives her the opportunity to play maybe the most complex character in the Rob Zombie filmography. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. I'm like thinking about it right now. Yeah, that's probably the most layered character he's created. And again, that movie ain't perfect, but it's pretty good considering the source material and who all's involved. But yes, I think he lets her do a bit too much in this.
Just a bit. He told her, baby, there's this award called the Embry. You only get it if you go for it. We're never going to get an Oscar.
Quality be damned.
Be able. If we play our cards right, we might get an Embry someday.
I have thoughts on this movie that I'm kind of surprised coming away with. So I'm curious to see how you feel about this, because it's not like a mystery. I mean, you'd have that really fucking weird thing where you like his Halloween more than Halloween 4 and a lot of other really good Halloween movies. But
that is inaccurate. Halloween 4 is third on my list. I think I have 2018, H2O, and then Halloween 4.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I remember it was because it was like over kills and ends that I was like, "What is wrong with you, man?" That's what it was. But I mean, generally speaking, I understand, and rightfully so, your general outlook on Rob Zombie's films is that they are unpleasant experiences, and I'm not sure this one went too far to kind of break that idea that you had. You know, he didn't play too far out of the sandbox in this one. But let's go ahead and get to it before we talk about our views on this. As it currently stands at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means some of the reviews submitted, more than half of them, were positive. Which ones of those did you pull, Julio?
All right, time for the fresh tomatoes. Delicious, ripe, red. We're going to start with Carrie O'Shea from War Perspective. Says, 3 from Hell looks every inch the Rob Zombie movie. Its aesthetics follow a familiar pattern, and he seems quite content to just let his characters amble on through their days, resurrected largely to take one more road trip. Is this a Hang movie, Alex? Is this Rob Zombie's Hang movie?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
He brought them back just to have fun for a couple hours.
Respect, man.
Would you... Okay, this is kind of like a gimme, but would you say that it's better, much like with Toy Story 4 and Toy Story 3? Isn't it better if it just ends with Devil's Rejects, like that shootout? Or are you happy that they get a happy ending here?
Well, I don't want them to have a happy ending, really. I think
Thank
it's...
you.
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Leading the witness. I mean, you could have surprised me. Maybe you would have told me, like, well, yeah,
And like even have the dog like going away with him. I was like, oh, okay, come
on. Next, Heather Wixon from Daily Dead says, as a whole, 3 from Hell was still a lot of fun, and it feels like Zombie has grown a bit as a visual storyteller to boot. I don't have even though I've seen more than a few of his movies, I don't know that I can trace his evolution as a filmmaker necessarily. You might, because you've rewatched several of them. So do you think that's accurate? Do you think that 3 from Hell, whether you like it or not, does it show some sort of evolution, growth?
No, not to me. It kind of feels like he regressed because, oh God, yeah, like there's such a fucking obsession with like the elongated like torture sequences that really don't exist in the second. Maybe the second half does. There's an interesting thing at play here where this really is like 2 different movies. It's a tale of 2 movies. But no, I mean, if anything, by the time the Munsters came around, you can make the argument for that. But I don't view this as, this doesn't do anything that Devil's Rejects didn't do, and Devil's Rejects does everything this movie does a lot better. And even House of a Thousand Corpses, you watch that and you're just like, holy shit. Like, this guy's got some ideas. And this is just, you watch and you're like, okay, why not? I guess narratively speaking, I would say he regressed. If we're just talking about visually, yeah, I mean, it looks good for, the budget it had and, what little resources were at his disposal.
I wonder if he has the advantage, and it's an advantage that arguably he earned, right? You can make this movie for cheaper because you have characters that have already a built-in audience. So that they're going to come watch it, even if it's not as it doesn't have as high a budget as the previous 2. They're like, well, you just have to tell them that it's the Firefly family and they're going to show up. So that allows you some flexibility because you're like, all right, this is the amount of money I have. But thankfully, I just need to get Bill Moseley, Sherry Moon Zombie, and Sid Haig as much as I can, to show up. And that makes it gives it more prestige already, in the Rob Zombie universe. That
was part of it too, from my understanding, was he wasn't going to get funding from who put this out? Lionsgate. If he didn't get all 3 of them back, and Sid Haig was obviously in really bad shape, so he kind of had to call it on the fliz with what they were going to do with the Captain Spaulding character.
That's probably the most creative thing he did in this movie.
Yeah.
We're going to close with Trace Thurman from the Horror Queers podcast, who says, it's the weakest of the Firefly trilogy, but that's not to say it's not completely without merit. It's certainly at its best when Sherry Moon Zombie is front and center. Alex, I think you're going to agree with one of those statements and disagree with the other.
It's at its best when Sherry Moon... Okay, yeah, I'd like a moment for rebuttal on that one.
You'll get more than a moment. I think we're about to have several minutes of rebuttal when it comes to that. But the weakest of the Firefly trilogy, would you agree with that? Or do you think this is better than... Okay. I think it probably makes more sense than House of a Thousand Corpses.
Correct.
But I don't know that makes a better movie.
House of a Thousand Corpses is also a half hour shorter.
Already instant win.
Tell you what, Ski King, why don't you just take your mama home some chicken and then I won't have to stuff my boot all up in your ass?
I don't like chicken and I hate clowns.
I don't remember much about that movie. I just remember it like a fever dream. I just remember Rainn Wilson is in it.
Rainn Wilson, Chris Hardwick's in it.
Chris Hardwick is in it. Yeah. And I will never watch it again. So that's what I'm stuck with. And I'm fine. I remember more about Devil's Rejects, but more so than the plot. I mean, of course, everybody remembers the ending, but just the feeling of watching it, just the displeasure and just feeling dirty. It's like, this is a nasty experience. I understand the love for it. Don't get me wrong. I understand the what can be appealing if you're connecting with the filmmaking. If you can get past the characters and just connect to the filmmaking, the way that he's shooting this story and telling this story, and kind of the unapologetic way in which he's shooting some things, I was like, I can see how some people might say that that's his best movie. It's hard for me because I just don't like his movies. So I'm like, I guess, it might be the most well put together. And then along comes this, and it's kind of like what you said, right? It's Devil's Rejects Light, where it's like the greatest hits.
I wasn't kidding too much of like, a big part of Devil's Rejects is there is some like good deadpan comedy in that, and the overwhelming majority of that comes from Sid Haig. And without that, like, not to say Devil's Rejects isn't for some people a completely unpleasant experience, but like some of the deadpan comedy and also the morbid humor when Sid Haig's asking the kid's like crying because he knocked out his mom, like headbutt. It was PJ Souls he headbutted. It's like, do you like clowns? He's like, no. He's like, why? Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny? Just like yelling at the kid. Like, that shit's funny. And this movie is like almost entirely void of any comedy. I mean, even Bill Moseley has some, albeit morbid, but some funny lines in the Devil's Rejects. There's also nothing as just kind of blatantly hilarious to me as in Devil's Rejects when William Forsythe freaks out that dude is disparaging the name of Elvis and he threatens to like kill the guy for talking shit about Elvis. Like that's right up my alley in terms of character building and execution.
Well, is it that it's devoid of comedy, Three from Hell, or just that the comedy is not good? Like the comedy doesn't land? Because I feel like there are big stretches of the movie,
touche,
where they're trying to be funny. Like the whole thing here when they ambush that couple that at first seems to have gotten the drop on Richard Brake, but then Otis gets the drop on them, and then they have Richard Brake has that long monologue about titties and how you just have to talk about boobs and then a guy will forget that he's pointing a gun at you and so on. And that's meant to be funny, right? Like, I don't think it is.
I guess, yeah, it's not, but yeah.
It just goes on forever. And I think that there's some chunks of the movie that are like that. We're like, oh, I think I'm supposed to find this amusing. But to go back to that last quote, what Trace Thurman was saying, you and I have the same disagreement with him, I think. And that is that I think it's the opposite. I think that the movie's at its worst when Sherry Moon Zombie is at the forefront. Because that performance is not good. I mean, it's not even that it's not good. It's just not, because it could be that Rob Zombie told her, look, you're just going to have to be really quirky. You've gone through some shit in prison. And so you've come out like this impish creature.
Yeah.
And in that case, she's doing what she's meant to do. Like, I would feel more comfortable calling it a bad performance if she came across as being completely disconnected, right? Like the actors that get the hooies when we do our year wrap up, right? The people that are not even trying. And that's not it. I mean, she's going out there, but it's just, I can't take it seriously. It's really cringe. That's the word, Alex. It's so cringe.
Yeah, extremely. Dude, that whole scene where she's like seeing that cat and like meowing at it. Oh God. Like, you have to turn away from the screen type thing.
She was not like this in Devil's Rejects, right? I would remember. Okay.
No. she's not like this. And that's one of the things I was talking about, because my sister came and watched like the second half of the movie with me and said she had actually watched it before. And in those two movies, she's very, I guess, bubbly would be the polite word. She's like annoying. Like she's loud, and her character is annoying, and also her execution of it is moderately annoying. But it's all like, it all kind of like makes sense in the way it's, to me, it does, the way it's like portrayed and pulled off. And, you know, there's a lot more of Otis just being like, shut the fuck up, like in those movies. And like, you know, especially Devil's Rejects, and like, will you just shut up for a minute or stop it, you know? And in this, it seems like there was this clear idea that they were going to make her the star. And look, Sherry Moon, I honestly, the most like personality piece I've ever seen on her. And also I should confirm that I watched this on DVD, and that there's a 30-minute behind the scenes making of 3 from Hell featurette that I just couldn't muster up the patience to watch. But
I would love it if Zombie calls cut and she instantly drops the bullshit. She's just like dead serious.
The personality pieces of her that I have seen, or I guess I should say behind the scenes or interviews and stuff, where she, like, you know, I guess this would be who she is. She seems fairly centered and balanced, a lot like Rob Zombie does. So who fucking knows? And she, like I said, could be a wonderful person. Richard Brake and Bill Moseley are legitimately like good actors.
Yes.
They necessarily don't have careers that, you know, ain't no Oscar nominations in their past, but I think what is like the encompassing, I guess, symbolic scene of this movie is legitimately my favorite scene, where they're playing cards because it's shot so well and the dialogue between them is so effortless. But she's making these noises in the background while this is going on. And it's like, will you shut the fuck up? And that's kind of like what this movie is to me. I mean, if it's the same movie with like the torturing and the killing and stuff like that, I'm not sure I would get behind it as much. But for the most part, when Richard Brake and Bill Moseley are talking, I'm so much more like interested. And, you know, when she shows up, it's so stupid too how she has like her way of killing now, where she leaves messages in blood. And, you know, this is a movie that is really a trilogy, I should say. It started with like basically a sci-fi horror, but it stretches the bounds of believability or, you know, anything rooted in realism. Like when those two women in prison try to kill her and she kills both of them and then like leaves a message for the prison guard in blood. I'm like, this is so fucking stupid, man. And the idea of making her the lead character in this is misguided, would be the nicest word I could use for it.
Yeah, I think that Zombie definitely cares for the character more than I did.
And if Rob or Sherry's listening to this, they should listen to the other stuff we've done where we talk about them, because this is probably the harshest I've been on his work. I'm typically filled with positives.
Man, listen to that Halloween episode where we talked about that movie more than I think most people ever have.
I talk about like my 20-year history with that film and my love-hate relationship with it.
You can't bring the past back up and prostitute that mock-up as a picture of something that happened 100 years ago.
Then again, like you've said time and again, accurately, Rob Zombie makes the movies he wants to make. He makes them for himself. So my assumption is that he loves this character. He loves Baby. He felt it was time for her to get some more to do. And obviously he loves the actress that portrays Baby. So it's a twofer, right? He gets to expand
Quite
the character
literally,
he
yes.
likes. Yeah. And he gets to do something nice for the actress who also happens to be his wife. And so I'm like, sure, let's just have fun. I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? and what does he care if it doesn't work for us? But it doesn't work. Definitely for me, clearly worked for Trace Thurman, because he said that that's when the movie was at its best. So there is something maybe to be said for a section of the audience that would absolutely relish the shenanigans going on with the baby character here, where she's just a blabbermouth that alternates between being really childlike and being really crass. And I don't find anything in that description, in that character construction, in the performance to be appealing. So that's already like a big problem because she's such a big part of the movie. I will take a less enthusiastic stance when it comes to the dialogue. I think some of it is good between Brake and Mosley, but there's some other stuff where it just felt, and I know we say this sometimes, and sometimes it can be praised, sometimes it's not. Like, it just felt so written, right? Like these were people that, like, people don't talk like this. And maybe the thing is that they talk like this in Rob Zombie movies, and I just don't like Rob Zombie movies, so that's why I don't give a shit. But there's a point where Bill Moseley tells Brake is bitching about something, and Bill Moseley says something like, you can sing a hell of a song. Or, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, he has a turn of phrase. I'm like, who talks like this?
Yeah. Which, that in the defense of Rob Zombie, and again, making the movies he wants to make, he clearly, I think if he never had to leave a drive-in movie theater in the 1970s, he never would have. But so, thinking of movies back then that they would have some lines that, turn a phrase that you never heard of or anything like that. But you're exactly right. Because they're trying to, or he's trying to give these characters depth and almost like have you feel a way about them when they talk like that. I know I'm so fixated on it and it's so innocuous, that card scene, but it's like the brief moment where it's like, oh, real people, fuck yeah. Because even like the part where they're talking about making pornos together, the way they're talking about doing it is not like, if you and I had like aspirations of making a porn company, we wouldn't be like talking to each other like that about it. So I understand what you mean. That's like, to me. All right. So here's my takeaway this come around. I liked the Mexico stuff a lot more than I remembered the first time I watched this movie. However, the first hour was even harder to get through than I remembered the first time I watched the movie. So I don't know what that means or what that says, but I think from your point of like the way the dialogue is and the just bombastic nature of the movie, the Mexico part of it works so much better to where, yeah, truckloads of fucking luchadors in suits with machine guns get out. And there's like a one-eyed little person that's the concierge at the hotel, and it's Dias de los Muertos, and there's all this partying on, and there's like a sequence, it's like a music video for a moment in time. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? I hate the first hour of this movie, and you know how I reserve that word for extreme situations. That whole thing about the hostages at the house, and like you're a high ranking official in law enforcement, like you can think to at least try something, right? Like, hey, it's
not like they're monitoring him.
No,
they let him go. He could have done whatever he wanted while he was away.
Yeah, it's not like there's a tracker on him or like, exactly your point. Or it's not even a thing of like there's cell phones where they like put one on him and like, don't turn it off, that type of thing.
And it's like, what does he think is going to happen once he brings her back?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He knows they're going to kill him.
Yeah. And then there's kind of some stuff like this is where it gets hypocritical on my end, because there's definitely stuff like this in House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, but those are movies I enjoy. What's our rule, Julio? If you're with a movie, fuck it. Yep, exactly. So I hate so much when they get back and like this the long non-breaking sequence of them like slowly killing everybody.
Yeah.
And like when Richard breaks that fucking idiot warden shoots his own wife, and then he just has to watch like the other guy slit her throat and kill her, and like, and then one of Rob Zombie's favorite things, a nude woman running away in terror only to be like captured and killed. It's it feels so dumb saying that and then being like, but it works in other movies, it just doesn't work here. But it's kind of how I feel. And in this, it's just like, dude, this is so fucking stupid. And then he shoots the warden in the head. And again, during this, Sherry Moon's making all these weird faces and noises that just make it 10 times worse what's happening. I don't know.
You hold the key in a way that I don't here, Alex, because that I hate all that shit. I hate it in Devil's Rejects too. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like that movie. And kind of like to tie it up, just to go back for a moment to tie it up to the dialogue thing, that is 100% like if the movie had me, I would just find the dialogue very amusing. But because I am not in sync with the movie, it just stands out how like mannered the dialogue can be from these people, and the dissonance between like how weird they talk, but how realistic or gritty the violence is supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, that can work. Like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, you know, they were kind of funny about the way that they talked, but it was so much fun. And you were all in. And so I don't mind. I find it to be a plus. But here it's the opposite. I was like, on top of everything, I was like, just talk like real people. Just talk like regular people. Don't try to be fancy.
He goes out of his way too to think of like awful things to do, like when Richard breaks, just throwing that woman's mother's ashes around. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
And I mean, it's possible that is the point, right? That Rob Zombie and defenders of this type of approach he has to storytelling, they'll tell you that is the fucking point. If you're going to watch a Rob Zombie movie, you're in for that type of button pushing, right? Which is
what does Soul Asylum say? They say misery loves company. I guess that's the case here.
Yeah, it's like we all enjoy seeing other people suffer. I mean, that is. I don't want to go back to my tried and true. Because I want to wear it out, but like the whole like why, right? Like why would you sit through something like this? Just despicable people doing despicable things to people that maybe they're not innocent, but definitely didn't deserve this kind of treatment.
There's nothing in there for you. It's my mother's ashes. Just put it back. No, do not stick your nasty, filthy fucking head. Oh my God, you fucking asshole!
The absolute worst part where I just disconnected from that sequence was the implication that Otis had raped the wife, or at least one of the women that were there, because that's why she's naked, right? Yeah. He like sticks his thumb in her mouth at the beginning of, in a previous scene when they're still negotiating what was going to happen, and he tells her there's a preview of what's to come. And then next time you see them, one of the cutbacks to the house, they're watching TV. I didn't even notice that she was naked, but then I saw she was naked, when she got up, and I was like, this son of a bitch couldn't and I get it. And I know that you can say, well, what did you expect, right? Like you can't not have that happen once you've set it up, like the kind of people these characters are and the situation, and, but at the same time, it's like, I don't need it.
Yeah. That's the big scene in Devil's Rejects that I don't know if we talked about it on here, but that's always my go-to of like, yeah, it'd be a lot better if this wasn't in the fucking movie. It's like the one thing to me that like keeps it from being like a great horror movie is that elongated sequence where it's just what you're saying. It's, torturing these women and sexual assault and stuff. It's like, dude, and we've talked about that with his Halloween movies.
The director's cut.
Yeah. That bizarre scene that, he thought was like money. And then if you even read further into it, like I can't remember how much this we talked about in the episode, but like some of the stuff that didn't even make it to like getting shot because the studio was like, no, it's I'll tell you what, it's all the more like noodle melting now that I've seen the Munsters. And if we ever get there and you watch that, I feel comfortable saying you'll have a similar takeaway of how like, I'm not saying you're going to love that movie, and I still think my, for just transparency, my letterbox I think is like 3.5 stars on that. So it's not like a great, but like it's so colorful and funny and innocent, and I remember that kind of like changed my entire perspective. I was like, okay, so what
is this deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I couldn't even tell you what the deal is with the movies, let alone the filmmaker, because what is the purpose of the Firefly Trilogy? What are you, like as a filmmaker, what is he trying to do? Are we supposed to somehow be on the Firefly side? Because, I mean, that doesn't seem right? Is he making these movies expecting you to be happy when they drive away at the end of Three from Hell, and to be bummed when they get shot at the end of Devil's Rejects?
I remember in real time when that movie came out, like having kind of discussions with people about that. So the way, I don't know if you remember exactly the way House of a Thousand Corpses ends, but that movie just ends like a fucking fever dream horror movie, like you said. Because the one girl who thinks she gets away, Bill Moseley sits up in the, and I don't know, you remember Bill Moseley's like a ghoul in that movie. Like he's all like, he looks emaciated and is like pale and shit. With Devil's Rejects, I remember some people that like contemporaneously like hated it and talking to him about it. Yes, there is kind of the implication of the story of like monsters can turn you into a monster, rage can turn you.
Yeah.
But at no point during any viewing of that film did I ever have any sympathy for the ending. What it is a very well shot sequence. And, you know, Rob Zombie, man, say what you will about his filmmaking narratively and execution, motherfucker can pick a soundtrack. And there's a lot of people our age that, you know, cinephile folk that will when they think of Freebird in a film, they think of that scene in that movie. So he did something right in that regard. But to your point, in that movie, I've never felt like I'm supposed to feel sorry for them at the end. I've always felt like they got what was coming to them. And then at the end of this, again, it makes it all the more fascinating, the Mexico portion of it. Because if the movie was just, we pick up with Richard Brake, Sherry Moon, and Otis, my boy Bill Moseley, and we get like a fucking text scroll or through dialogue we learn of what happened in the sense of they went to prison, they escaped, but they couldn't do it before Captain Spaulding got executed. And then they just, you know, the Avengers line of how much black magic did Dad had to summon, you know, for Richard Brake to get here. And then it becomes kind of like fantastical. And I could even, you know how I can operate in this manner of start making up like, well, maybe it didn't even happen. Maybe it's like they're all dead and this is like in the afterlife or something. But the problem is we have this whole hour of unnecessary violence, of really, really like disgusting language and shit. And then when we get there, so by the time the movie does end, I'm like, man, go fuck yourself. Like, you know, I just, even as much as I love that Terry Reid song, it's like we talk about with old RZ, Roberto Zambarelli, numerous times. Motherfucker knows how to frame a shot. There's like, when they meet those prostitutes at the bar, the entire way that sequence is set up and framed and shot is just like, I was watching that specifically because there's some of the like cantina lights are kind of bleeding into the frame during that. And it's just like, dude, this guy knows what the fuck he's doing. It's just like, the problem is the other things swirling around in his brain are really weird and problematic and, you know, don't always necessarily produce a good movie, do not make, you know? So,
but it's the kind of thing though, that going back to, it's a Rob Zombie movie. It's his brand, pal. Like how many people would he disappoint if he brought back the Firefly family and they were not gigantic pieces of shit, right? If somehow they did not brutalize that family that they take hostage, if they didn't take any hostages, I think that I wouldn't mind. I would be like, oh, well, this movie is easier to sit through. But most people that love Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses would feel like that he put the kids' gloves on, right? Like it's like that's not what I wanted. So I think in that sense, I just kind of have to come to terms with the fact that he doesn't make movies for me. I find a lot of what he does repulsive, and so that makes it really hard for me to get through his movies and to appreciate the good things.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that the Mexico part is better, and I think even beyond all the stuff that we've been talking about, it's even so simple as to, we kind of joked about it in Contreras Corner. In the second half, there are some sort of stakes. Like it doesn't feel like we're just watching the Fireflies be invincible all throughout, right? We know that there's a threat that they're not aware of, and they actually connect with people, which means that we have some sort of investment in that at least, right? I don't want Sebastian to get killed. I don't want like the girls that were sleeping with Otis. I don't want him to get killed. And
there's not like the frustration of like the idiocy of the warden and these people falling into their traps. Like in this situation, one, they get some help, and unexpected help that, you know, really pays off, but it's really just like a shootout that they get the better of.
Yes. So it's very, very straightforward, but it's just shot really well. And there's some, I don't think he overdoes it. I think that it could have gotten boring if it went on for too long, but I think we get to the machete duel right on time. And then you're done. And so the Mexico thing, and I like the knife throwing, that whole sequence was kind of fun too. It just works on its own so much better. And then you get to the perplexing ending. You're like, I guess they live happily ever after, right? That was the end of it. Is he?
That's what he learned from Devil's Rejects. Like, man, fuck it, just play a good song.
They don't have to die. We just have to kick it up on the soundtrack.
That's literally I think that's the last line in The Goods, which you know how much I love that movie. Is Jeremy Piven goes, just play a good song, and that's how the movie ends.
They look like they could go on to another movie if Zombie wanted. They could do 4 from Hell or whatever. There's nothing.
I'm sorry, it took a second for that to register.
They just add somebody else. And from now on, it's just like the Ocean's 11 movies. Every installment has one more person join the Firefly family, like a long lost cousin or whatever.
Well, and then if you have 4, you have to go up to 6 because then it can be 666 from Hell.
It actually takes place in hell. That one is the one where Otis goes to the underworld to save the soul of Captain Spaulding. And it's supernatural and shit. I don't know what's worse, that they could make another one or that this would be the end of that story. Not because I care, but also but just because they get a happy ending. That rubs me the wrong way. Like, if the Mexico sequence, is it supposed to make you forget all the horrible things that they've done in the first half of this movie and in the previous movies? Right? That's who watches this, who sits back, watches them drive in black and white while the song plays and goes like, good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I want to know, because I mean, I'm not saying that makes you a bad person, but it's just such a very different way of experiencing the movie than I do, right? Like, I can't figure out like a way where you watch this movie, you watch any of these movies, and you're just kind of invested in the characters in that way. And for me, the most interesting way to approach them are as like an exercise in provocation. And that might be what Zombie's doing, and that might be how most of the people that like these movies like them. Like, it's not that you like the characters, it's not that you're rooting for them, but it's interesting to see how your empathy can be tested. At what point do you find them despicable? And can that change in the course of a movie? Can that change across 3 movies? For all my talk, when I'm watching that fight, the machete fight at the end of this movie, I want Otis to win. And I couldn't really tell you why. I mean, I guess because I like Bill Moseley as an actor, because I don't really have an interest in the other person killing him. Obviously the movie stacks the deck, but still. So maybe as a sociological experiment, the Firefly Trilogy works that way. And Rob Zombie's gonna show you the worst of the worst, just to see if you can connect to it intermittently or if you can connect to it at all. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any interviews with him. I don't know what kind of dude he is. I don't know if he's just like, no, man, I just like to make fucked up movies. Or if he's like, well, I'm making fucked up movies to test you. Does he strike you as one guy or the other?
Oh, I don't know. And, again, this circling back to friend of the podcast, Reed, like, is not a fan of his work, but has said, and we joke about it, that Rob Zombie's figured it out, man. He's consistently found studios that will give him money to make exactly what he wants to make, just like get together with his friends and make a movie, So it almost doesn't matter what he's trying to do, because it's like, man, that dude, how many people, aspiring filmmakers would kill to basically have the run he's had. And I know it's not been all fucking perfect. I know obviously the situation where Universal dropped House of a Thousand Corpses, and then with his Halloween movies, working with the Weinsteins, constantly meddling with his work and whatnot. But You can't tell me Lords of Salem, that movie 31, Three from Hell, and Munsters. Like, that's 4 movies in a row over the past 12, 13 years where he's just got to hang out with his wife and his friends and make these fucking weird movies that he wants to make. And it's like, God fucking bless, dude.
And he just makes them because they're fun to make.
I don't know.
He's just like, he's writing the screenplays and it's like, all right, what's the next fucked up thing I can do?
31's a weird movie. It's one of those that, like, from what I recall, there's no really intense like sexual exploitation or assault that like really is like, man, what the fuck was the point of that? I could be wrong though. You know, you'll forgive me if some of the stuff blends together, but I remember enjoying that movie just because it was kind of, why not? Have I told you about it? Basically, people get captured and forced to play like this survival game where people are trying to kill them. And Richard Brake is literally the final boss in that movie. Oh, man, that would be one of your favorites because, you know, talking, not how any human has ever talked. He has this, his big line in it is, he says, everyone in hell loves popcorn. I think that's what he says. I remember like watching that first time. I was like, all right. But now, like, we've talked about this, just thinking of being in a theater, like you're on the opposite side of the theater. It's like a packed auditorium, you know, sold out midnight showing. He says that. I just hear Julio. Ugh. Just so yeah, what you said, I kind of took off running with that, but yeah, I guess I don't know either. He clearly, I think, fashions himself or views himself as an auteur and takes influence from a very clear period of time and a very clear style of filmmaking. And, you know, even before he started making movies, like White Zombie videos always had old horror movie clips inserted into them. And like his concerts would always have old horror movie clips playing in the background and whatnot. I think it's just what he fucking digs, man. And cool. But that doesn't mean I have to watch Three from Hell and be like, this works for me. Part of it does, but not the whole thing.
I mean, it's unfair. It's unfair and fair at the same time. I think it's fair. You can't say people are being unreasonable when they watch a movie like Three from Hell and they go like, well, this says a lot about the person that made it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you can take that too far, or you can also just be completely wrong, right? And you could just be misjudging what the person intended with that movie. Because Rob Zombie, I mean, because we've seen several of his movies, and because the aesthetic is so recognizable and the themes, the things that he likes to do are so loud, I think that it's a little easier to feel secure when you say like, yeah, he likes his shit.
Yeah.
This is fucked up and he likes it. Going back to that Strange Darling video review that we did, that having only seen one movie from that guy, that read that we had about it, we're like, well, maybe it was unintentional. You know, it's a little trickier to say, I think that the filmmaker fucked up here, or, you know, I think the filmmaker feels a very specific way as I watch this movie. But Rob Zombie, having watched Halloween, Lords of Salem, House of 1,000 Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Three from Hell, that's probably it, I think. Oh, and Halloween 2. I can't blame anyone but myself and you, because you put the you put this on the bracket. You made me watch it. But you know, if I go and find myself watching a Rob Zombie movie and I don't like it, it's not his fault, because he's given me plenty of warning by now. He's like, "What did you expect?" Yeah, and I would say, "You're right," which is why it's gonna be hilarious if I watch The Monsters and I like it. Because then I'll be like, well, now I have to watch another movie that he, you know, next thing he puts out, because I'll be like, oh, maybe I like it. Like I like The Monsters.
The truth is a fucking knife. It cuts deep and it cuts both ways. Which end of the buck knife are you holding? The handle or the blade?
So where do you put this, Alex, on your Rob Zombie ranking? You're the expert here.
You know, it's a tough life, but I chose it, I suppose. It is better than Halloween 2. That's it.
It's at the bottom of the barrel.
Halloween 2, yeah, that's I really, having, you know, Corey, You do a lot for us, and I appreciate you, brother. But having actually gone and watched the director's cut, and I guess he was trying something, but whatever it was, did not work for me in any capacity. And I do really like the Mexico portion of this. So, and it's like close proximity to 31. 31's kind of fun, but it's not what I would call good. And then I might put his first Halloween over House of a Thousand Corpses. Those might be kind of like, tied there in the middle, probably with Munsters, like a little 3-way tie going on there. And then Lords of Salem and Devil's Rejects are the S tier Rob Zombie films. I already said it. I came away, the first half was worse than I remember, and the second half was better. I think that speaks more to how bad the first half was, because I remember really having a really, really a not fun time watching this movie the first go around. I'm going to give this a D+, maybe 2 stars when I log this on Letterboxd, depending on if I listen to Terry Reid before then or not. So it's there because there's flashes of like great acting. There's moments of and then there's also the just visual of like this dude. He has an eye behind the camera. This movie is obviously not, it's 6 years old. So I can't really compare it to anything, modern, I guess. But what is one of my constant criticisms of a lot of like modern movies, even like mainly the straight to streaming, it's just so banal and like everything looks the fucking same. And so if I want to end this on a high note, like a compliment, I would say Rob Zombie is someone that got behind a film camera, and like he has a vision when he does that. And like he knows how to set up a shot, which is more than I couldn't do that, and that's part of like the skill that it takes to be a filmmaker. The problem is when the pen goes to the paper and then everything kind of goes off the rails. But yeah, D+, it's not good. But it has flashes. It has moments of like, you raise the one eyebrow and go, but that's the extent of what it has.
If this movie wasn't saddled with the Sherry Moon performance, maybe I would be a little more generous. But it's like we've been talking about, we touched on that at the very beginning, and then we started talking about all the other things. So I'd almost forgotten that was such a big part of the experience. And I just now remember, I was like, oh yeah, that was fucking brutal. Yeah, I think it's going to be 1 star for me.
Fair.
Not half, because there are things that I think if you take them in isolation, they're interesting. Beyond the look of the movie and the soundtrack and, things that we're talking about. The Clint Howard sequence where he's a clown, it's so insane that I can kind of appreciate it on that surreal level. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And in the context of the movie, I don't care. But when I think of it now, I'm like, yeah, that was really fucking weird, right? Like they got Clint Howard and they got him to do like a bad stand-up routine dressed as a clown, and he's throwing glitter in slow motion. I'm not going to forget that. So there is that. And same thing, the Mexico thing, I can appreciate it in a way, kind of as its own thing. But then the moment I put it in the context of this movie and the context of a trilogy, I'm like, fuck you, trying to get me to root for these people in a way, I don't know. I mean, it is possible that there's something that's going over my head about what Rob Zombie's doing, about evil, about the nature of evil, or I don't know. It's just not registering. But as it is, it's a 1-star experience for me, and I will never watch it again.
Fair.
But I will watch The Monsters because you said I should, and I'm curious.
That's going to be the real like tie it all around. How you feel about that? And again, I want to make sure it's set. It's not great, but it's fun.
A fun Rob Zombie movie. That who'd have thunk? All right, 1 star from me. D- from Alex. Not an F yet.
No.
So look at that.
I am what they make me.
I'm your bozo Jesus hung out to dry for the sins of mankind. Oh, fuck. All hail the man behind the grease paint.
I'd say that I would bring it up again in real talk, and so it's time to bring it up. This was something that came as a result of a good performance from us at the Livestream for the Cure.
Yep.
We expect to do the same this year, even though as of this recording, we haven't figured out what we're doing yet or what the rewards / punishments are going to be. But just stick around. You know, it's going to be fun. I mean, by the time that you guys listen to this, we'll know. And maybe you will too if we put it up on social media or something. But May 17th, mark your calendars. Check our social media for links. We'll be promoting this as it gets closer. But we'll be there raising money for cancer research. Tell your friends. And that's it, Alex, for our Livestream debt. Do you know what's coming up next? Do you remember what our final recording of April is? I should say our final episode of April is.
Is it the Babadook?
It is the Babadook.
Okay.
It is. Patron Chaz Fisher pimping Australian cinema as hard as he can. Back to horror. We stay in the horror lane. This is not quite Rob Zombie stuff, but I don't know. Is Jennifer Kent Australian Rob Zombie? We shall find out. Do you know anything about this movie?
I've heard people talk about it in circles of whose opinion I respect. So, talked about positively, I should say.
Wow. It's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, so it already has that over.
It's very fresh. I think I looked it up. It's like 98%.
Yeah. We'll like it. So I saw it when it came out. I haven't seen it since. I think it will be an interesting conversation. So tune in next episode for the Babadook. And then on the Patreon feed, speaking of Chaz Fisher, he also gave us the bonus episode for the Patreon feed, the movie Talk to Me, more horror, more Australian horror. Chaz, what are you trying to do here? We already recorded that. It was a fun discussion. So check that out. As far as video reviews, we're splitting. Alex is doing the movie Sultan. I'm doing the movie Barry Lyndon, both courtesy of patron Ryan from Spit and Polish and the Yum Yum Pod. Barry Lyndon, Ryan, why are you doing this to me? God, that's like it might be the longest Stanley Kubrick movie. Probably not, but I remember feeling like it was the longest. Maybe.
I think that one he gave me is like 3 hours. So, you know.
Oh, okay. So he's effectively fucking with us. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We'll take it, Ryan, just because we like you so much. And then, of course, we also have Contrarians After Hours. Alex, this one's yours. You said, hey, we should use the After Hours to do a little thing for George Foreman since he passed recently, as of this recording.
Correct. Yeah, George Foreman, at the time of recording, passed last weekend. I believe on Saturday, news broke of that. George Foreman, obviously, for lack of a better phrase, a heavyweight, a titan in the boxing industry, and someone who had a pretty interesting crossover into American pop culture in the 1990s and has a bit of a different image now, I think. And I think when he passed, a lot of people in our age range, Julio, especially people that aren't, combat sports freaks like myself, were like, the grill guy. But many moons before then, there was the Rumble in the Jungle. He fought Muhammad Ali and Zaire for the heavyweight championship of the world. And in 1996, a documentary was released that covered that fight and ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Documentary at the 1997 award ceremony. And that was When We Were Kings. So we are going to be discussing the When We Were Kings documentary. That's, man, if you want to play along in real time, it's available to stream on many platforms. Netflix, Max, I think some of those free streaming services have it. I, of course, being the person that I am, own the Criterion Blu-ray of it. So I'll be watching that for After Hours. But yes, When We Were Kings, the Academy Award-winning documentary. So I feel it's only appropriate.
I am very excited. I've been falling behind on my documentary consumption, so this might kickstart it again. So that's it on our Patreon feed. If that sounds interesting, check out patreon.com/Contrarian Prime and see if you would like to join the Contrarian supplements. And now, Alex, let's get out of here.
And now it's gonna feel good just to get back home. Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Corey Ari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
Just for old time's sake, I really don't care who you're seeing or how much money you make together.